2024, your local election headquarters.
Well, Fresno City Council member Gary Bredefeld waging a right to bear arms battle against Mayor Lee Brand this week. So, is he right or wrong? Our panel is ready to put it up for debate. Time to take roll call for the first time this decade, 2020 here. KC24 political analyst Jim Veros is here. Longtime KMJ host, in fact, celebrating 50 years on the radio airwaves in Fresno, 32 of them at KMJ Ray Appleton. How are you, sir? And former candidate for Fresno County Supervisor and for Fresno Unified School Board, Nazreen Johnson. Welcome, one and all. All right, Nazreen, I want to start with you. You listen to Gary Bredefeld, passionate as he is. Does he have a good point?
Well, you know, there was one point that I can agree with Councilmember Bredefeld. If the building isn't secure, that does bring up some concerns. I'm pro Second Amendment rights. I'm not against CCWs, which might come as a surprise for some people. But I think there's a time and a place. You know, I don't want to see CCW permit holders allowed everywhere. There are some restrictions, including, like you mentioned, the federal court building, and places that even permit holders are not allowed to carry.
Ray, I'll come to you because, you know, CCWs, business owners that want to come in and carry their guns inside the building, he has no problem with this. Should we have a problem with this, and if they could just leave their gun in the car, it's not a big deal. They come in, they go.
I think it is a big deal. If I don't understand the problem, I don't know what needs to be fixed. Somebody needs to explain to me what needs to be fixed. Has there been a problem with gunfire in City Hall?
Not that I know of.
Well, me neither.
Yeah.
So why is this an issue?
Well, it's an issue because it's an ordinance that they want to put on to ban,
okay,
much like other buildings.
So
City Hall,
you've got a problem that needs fixing. Somebody needs to define to me what the problem is.
Well, maybe
this doesn't need fixing.
Is it in this day and age and what we're seeing around the country? Is that a reason why they're probably doing that, knowing that somebody can still come in? And
I personally would be much more comfortable with people around me that were trained and licensed, and I'd be quite happy with that.
Jim?
You know, I go back and forth on this. I think politically, you know, I respect Councilman Bredefeld. I think that he has an uphill battle politically on this. I don't think he has the votes from what I'm hearing. But I also reached out to some law enforcement during the week because I knew we were going to be talking about this. And a member of law enforcement I spoke to said, hey, we can't go into, if you have a CCW, you can't go into Disneyland. You have to leave your gun in the car.
Right.
Even if you're a police officer, you're not allowed to come into Disneyland with your gun. And if you don't like it, don't come into Disneyland. All right? So I think that there are rules in place. Obviously, you have an acting police chief who is with the mayor on this, so I don't know where it goes from here. Obviously, we can continue to talk about it, but the laws, the ordinance that's going to be being put in front of council, it looks like it's going to pass, and it looks like you're going to have to leave your gun in the car. So unless something comes up between now and then, I see it passing.
Ray, I want to come to you. Is Mr. Bredefeld focusing his Second Amendment battle with the right person here? Is it the mayor, or does he have to get more support here from the council? Obviously, it's the council who votes.
Well, yeah, I think it's both. I think it's, you know, two-pronged. It's Lee's ordinance, and he does need to get support from the council. So, yeah, the answer to your question is yes and yes, I suppose. You know?
Yeah, and I want to come to you because when you talked about this, Nazreen, Gary talked about what happened in White Settlement. Is that a good reason enough why to have either city employees who have CCWs? We don't know which city employees are allowed or not allowed to carry inside, but could this save lives, though?
Well, I think it depends on who we're allowing to hold CCW permits. One of the examples that I want to give, I don't know if everyone's aware, but there are a huge amount in Fresno County, 17 per 1,000 population carries CCWs. If you compare that to the state, it's about 3. So we have 5 times as many CCW permit holders here in our community. And so I want to know, why is our rate so high? I know we have a sheriff who supports it, but are we properly training them? I would be okay if we were properly training them, but I spoke to somebody who took a class recently in order to learn more information to get a CCW and felt that that was not adequate. So my concern is, are we really being safe in our process?
Yeah, and I think if we... I think something that the councilman touched on, and I think that we should really take a look at, is that he may not have the votes on this, but if there truly is an access point where people that either have a CCW or worse can get in the building, that needs to be shored up, and I think that should be brought in front of the dais when they're talking about this. Is
if you have a disgruntled employee that can get through another door with a pass, and they're not happy about something and something goes wrong,
what happens then? I think that needs to be explained to the public, especially the CCW permit holders. You know, when I go up to the Capitol, everyone goes through security. When you go to the federal courthouse, you go through security. So what makes City Hall that special? I think, you know, if the councilman is correct and there are access points where you can get in without going through the scanners, that's not right, and you need to fix that.
Ray, I'll let you punctuate it. Is City Hall these days a target, you think?
I think potentially anywhere is a target, you know, where there's a large gathering of people, whether it's a school, a church, a government building, Disneyland, which is a private organization. Targets, you know, where you can get lost in a crowd. Multiple exit points. Yeah, it's a target.
Okay. I want to get to this real quick. McClatchy, who owns the Fresno Bee, the Modesto Bee, Sacramento Bee, it is the second largest newspaper organization in the entire country. They are expected to file for bankruptcy this year. The shareholders, or not shareholders, pension holders that are with them, some of them are not going to receive some of their pension, as some of that money is now not being doled out due to this company in disarray at this point. Do we see the Fresno Bee, the Modesto Bee? Jim, I'll start with you. Is this one of the newspapers that goes under this year?
Yes. Absolutely, and I think it's not so much an opinion, just take a look at their financials. I mean, their market cap has been shrinking over the past 24 months. And what kind of bankruptcy are they looking at? Are they looking at reorganization and trying to sell assets? I mean, what is there to salvage? And this isn't about if you like the Fresno Bee or not. Just take a look at the financials. The business of being a newspaper has changed over the last generation, and they've had troubles catching up to that. So I don't see them recovering from it.
Is it all of McClatchy, or is it just one or two? Your good buddy Ray, Congressman Devin Nunes, is in a lawsuit battle with them now. How much of that you think is playing a role?
I don't know if that's playing a role or not. I mean, that's probably a major distraction for them. But, I mean, as you know, my son worked there for a couple of years. And the horror stories that he told me about the lack of funding for everything, you know, the ability to buy pencils and pens, I mean, it's just pathetic. The desperation to get stories that aren't there, to become more of a tabloid rather than a community newspaper. I could tell you things that would turn your hair grayer than it is. Well, actually, it's not bad.
Well, gee, thanks.
Of what he was asked to do, all in the name of circulation. It's very sad. Very sad.
And he said it. How sad is this, Nazreen? Because this is a long-time newspaper, something we all grown up to, and it may not be here.
So I think it's really sad, and I struggle when we think about journalism as it's changed, right? The business, like you mentioned, has changed over the years, and traditional print and news has struggled to keep up, right? Traditional print being like they're in a dire position. They're figuring out how to get readership. I know that when we renewed the paper, there was, I think it was a Saturday delivery was no longer going to be an option. You know, obviously some changes need to happen, but journalism is so important. That's how we get facts out there.
Let me add something too. Even though I'm in the radio business, I love newspapers. I'm not anti-paper. I spend a lot of time in England, and every time I stay at a particular hotel in Kensington, I order 5 papers daily, and I love it. I love having something in my hand, you know. So I don't want to see them go away. I'd like to see them change radically, but I think it's much too late for that.
We got to punctuate it there, guys. Great start, but we're coming back soon with you guys. Coming up, an assassination or a must-kill? Did President Trump make the right call in killing one of Iran's most beloved generals? And what comes next? Drew's leader of Lebanon, Mike Hamzy, joins me in studio.